Prabowo could clinch it in the first round, which would be great. But when you take a look at these four polls, as reliable as they do seem to be, there is also a margin of error. And that means there is still an outside risk it could go to a second round in June, correct?
Yeah, morning, Martin. Yeah, I think it's still a relatively close call. For sure, the probability of first round is increasing. But whether that really happens, I'm not so sure. As you said, the pollsters themselves have suggested that the margin of error is around 3 percentage points. That's higher than the excess of Prabowo's rating. And if I look back in the 2019 polls, actually there is a tendency for front runners to have a bit of an overestimate from the surveys relative to actual results. So that error was actually 4 to 5 percentage points for then candidate President Djokovic. So I think it's possible still that Prabowo could fall short of the 50% threshold.
But ultimately will win even if it goes to a second round?
Yeah, I think that's the bigger point here. Regardless of whether it's the first round or the second round, it seems likely that he will be the next president of Indonesia, just mainly from the fact that he's been backed by a still very popular President Djokovic. And that's helping him a lot, also from the fact that President Djokovic's son is his running mate. And yeah, he's supported by a large group of coalition partners and large parties in parliament. So I think that makes his machinery and his campaign very well supported.
Okay, so the working assumption is it is going to be a Prabowo presidency. And we've been telling viewers how the conversation seems to be moving forward already past that and looking at what's really of interest to the foreign investment community, and that is who's going to inherit or take over the portfolio of Sri Mulyani as finance minister. And you'll probably agree with me that this is an incredibly important position. Right? We know that obviously it's got to be somebody that the foreign investment community thinks is legitimate and also credible, a technocrat, in other words, somebody like Sri Mulyani, but it's also got to be somebody that Prabowo believes he can work with. Because he's been throwing around numbers like not 5%. Hey, look, this is an economy which I think can grow 6 to 7%, maybe even in the double digits. That is going to mean whoever's finance minister is going to have to agree to a looser hand on the finances, especially that 3% budget deficit limit, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. From an investor point of view, this is the most critical appointment that he can make. And as you alluded to, whoever is going to be the next finance minister will have to do a bit of a juggling act. On the one hand, fiscal discipline has been a strong anchor for Indonesia under Finance Minister Sri Mulyani, and so needs to sort of continue that to keep investors' sentiment still pretty strong. But on the other hand, we've noted that the campaign of Defense Minister Prabowo has been very clear about some of his fiscal spending measures, which are quite sizable. For example, subsidies, military spending, but also specifics like a free lunch program for students, which by their own estimate could be as high as 2% of GDP per year, against a fiscal deficit limit of about 3% of GDP per year. So I think there's a lot of spending if he's going to be pushing that when he becomes president, that the finance minister would have to ensure doesn't lead to an increase in fiscal risks.